Member for Kareem.
Madam Acting Speaker, I move that this House calls on the McGowan Labor Government to immediately increase desperately needed funding for family and domestic violence counselling, advocacy and support services. This is a very serious motion that needs urgent attention from this government, Mr Speaker. On Monday, the 22nd of June, I had a Zoom meeting with a number of CEOs, a cross-section of CEOs who provide family and domestic violence counselling, advocacy and support services across Western Australia. There was a huge number of people on the Zoom meeting. 18 providers are represented here by me today. They provide services across both Perth and regional WA. They have 22 contracts to the value of $5.8 million. And in the recently announced funding increase by the state government, they did not get 1 cent for an ERO supplementation, and we know that's been a big problem. Their contracts have been extended this month up for 3 years, up to the 2023, with no material increase in funding. All of the providers are losing money on these contracts, and they've recently renegotiated significant service reductions for victims of domestic violence. They did luckily get $25,000 from the federal government recently with regards to the COVID-19 issue. However, this was not to fund the contracts for the next 3 years, nor to address the current shortfall in funding. And it's important to note, Mr Acting Speaker, that Western Australia currently has the country's second highest rate of physical and sexual violence against women at a time when services are being desperately cut. Funding cuts from the 1st of July 2020. Here's some of the things that they raised with me at this Zoom meeting. They said that from July 1, there will be closure of some programs, and the wait list will just have to get longer. There's going to be no additional people that can come on. As a result of their service specification changes based on 2019 data for some of the organisation, their services were reduced by 34%. They've also noticed an increase of 17% in the last 12 months in demand, and it's growing. They will be ceasing some of their family and domestic violence group programs. There'll be a reduction in the number of days the service will operate in various police stations where they go from time to time. Support through some police stations will be centralised, and it'll be dealt with by phone rather than in person, therefore reducing the quality and increasing the workload of our police. And I'm led to believe that the police have expressed some concern about this change. Some service providers will be closing over Christmas for 2 weeks because they don't have the funds to pay for staff. Less time will be available for family and domestic violence victims. Staff numbers and hours are being cut, with the number of services reducing. There's a reduction on the one-on-one support. There's reduced time with clients. They won't be able to work with perpetrators, so some perpetrator programs are being closed and others are reducing services. There's less spending on training, capability building and organisational sustainability. So this is what these 18 service providers were telling me on this Zoom meeting that is happening right now. And the critical time is the 1st of July. Obviously it's critical up to this point because their services have been stretched as it is, but from the 1st of July it's even more. Now this government's, there's advertising on TV saying, go and report family and domestic violence, victims should come forward, call the service providers. Well, these service providers are telling me, how are they going to call them? They don't have the capacity to take any more people. They can't actually help anything. So on the one hand, the government's saying, report it, come out publicly, we want to know, especially during this COVID period. On the other hand, the service providers are saying, we have absolutely no capacity to be able to do this. Now, I stress, Mr Acting Speaker, this is not me saying this. This is them saying this. I am their voice here because this minister is not listening. And let me give you an example, right? Part of this was raised in an article in WA Today on the 5th of June, right? Now, in that article, what did the minister say? She said the prevention of family and domestic, it read, the prevention of family and domestic violence Minister Simone McGurk said the advice she had received was no service providers had communicated to the Department of Communities that FDV programs were at risk of being lost. So even back then on the 5th of June, they were saying publicly in the media, we are at crisis point, services are being cut, and the minister's saying, I know nothing, nobody's told me anything. The Department of Communities hasn't communicated anything, the programs are at risk. But on the 5th of June, they were saying it. On the 22nd of June, They're meeting with me via Zoom saying this is still a problem. No one's doing anything. We now need to come to the opposition because the minister's not listening, the government's not listening, they do not care. And let me tell you which service providers we're talking about here, just so that we put it in context here. Anglicare WA, Centrecare, Desert Blue Connect, Community Focus National Limited, Kulkuna, Mission Australia, Nintiri, NPYWC, One Tree, Ovis, Pat Giles Centre, Pilbara Community Legal Services, Relationships Australia WA, Share and Care, South Coastal Health and Community Services, Star IC, Waratah Support Centre, Women's Health and Family Services. These 18 service providers are in crisis. The people that use their services are not getting any the service they require because they don't have the funding. They have been working on their own fundraising to try and provide the services, and the government continues to force them to cut their services at a time when the rhetoric is all about the capacity building and delivering more. And this is at a time when we have, for the first time in the history of this state, a Minister for Family and Domestic Violence, and this is the crisis that the sector is putting on the table at a COVID period. Let's not talk about the WACOS state budget submission, which was scathing on this government, scathing on the capacity that this government's providing to the whole sector. It is unbelievable that the Labor Party members would be supporting this sort of attitude and this sort of behaviour. And, you know, people like the member for Bunbury get up here and they make all these wonderful speeches, but this is what's actually happening, member for Bunbury. You can have a Zoom meeting with these people as well. I've listed them. Why don't you help them? Why don't you force your government? Where are all these backbenchers that keep saying the Labor Party is there for all these, you know, social issues and helping people that are down and out? Well, I'll tell you what, they're nowhere. They're nowhere.
Thank you, Speaker.